Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to another edition of Primetime News on TV1. I'm Charlene Benedict for the Newsfirst team.
And I'm Thiruni Karunaratna. Before we head on to your stories in detail, let's first take a look at your top stories for tonight.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance was awarded the Best Finance Company for the third consecutive year.
Opposition leader calls to free the country from alcohol and introduce a program to protect the children. Sajid Premadasa says will revoke recently issued bar license.
මම ඇත්ත කතා කරන්නේ මම ඇත්තටම කිව්වා ඔය ඊයේ පෙරේද ලබා දුන්නු බාර් ලයිසන්ස් ඔක්කොම ටික කැන්සල් පාසල් මට්ටමින් සත්‍ය වශයෙන් මමත් දෙප ව්‍යාපාරයක් අවශ්‍යයි අද මත් රකුසා මත්පැන් මත්ද්‍රව්‍ය දුම්වැටි මේ පාසල් ආක්‍රමණය කළා තියෙනවා.
India's PhonePe rolls out UPI payments in Sri Lanka. Petition for Nimal Siripala and Duminda Dissanayaka's unhindered party work flawed. Petition returns to court. Does talk of parliament dissolution serve stock market interests? Former president responds to incumbent president. Vimal Veeravansa warns of Indian cultural onslaught with launch of the Ramayana Trail.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance was awarded the Best Finance Company for the third consecutive year.
Sri Lankan opposition leader Sajid Premadasa advocated for the implementation of a new program aimed at saving school children from alcohol addiction and ensuring their well-being.
Speaking at an event in Thambuthegama, the opposition leader expressed his intention to revoke more than 200 recently issued liquor licenses that were granted under the pretext of promoting the tourism industry.
මට ඡන්ද නැති වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. මම ඔබට එකක් කියන්න කැමතියි.
I may lose the votes, but there is one thing I must say. Many governments were elected promising to create a country free of alcohol. Yet once elected, they do the complete opposite and issue permits for wine stores and taverns. I would like to ask you the following question, but do not get angry with me and do not refuse to vote. What is the current status of the country's agricultural settlements? Hard-earned money is being wasted. Think about it. I am speaking about reality. I did mention that the recently issued liquor license will be cancelled. We need a temperance program in the country starting from the school level. Alcohol, drugs and cigarettes are creeping their way into school in an invasive manner. The parents are aware of what I'm saying. Every single mother and father must stand up against it to protect their children. These things are being done claiming to be aiming to promote the tourism sector in the country. However, these things need to be done in an open and transparent manner. At present, liquor licenses are being given to lower people. That is called the soft liquor license for wine stores. These matters are always discussed in Parliament. However, when we speak to the others, they say that they have been told that all of those things given by the government will be taken back by the end of the year. There is absolutely no room for promotion of alcohol, drugs and cigarettes in this country. I am not saying this is aimed at any election. I am saying this with the 4.1 million children in the country who have no vote. Vote for me or don't. It doesn't matter to me. That is the people's wish. The people, however, need to understand what I am saying here.
මට නම් ඡන්දේ දුන්නත් එකයි නැතත් එකයි ඒක ජනතාවගේ අභිමතය. ජනතාව තේරුම් ගන්නට ඕන මේ කියන්නේ මොන කාරණාද?
Indians travelling to Sri Lanka for vacation or work will no longer have to worry about converting currency or carrying extra cash, as now they can use India's Unified Payments Interface, also known as UPI, in the island nation. Now, for those wondering how, India's PhonePe has entered into a partnership with Lanka Pay, enabling Indian travellers to easily scan Lanka QR codes and make secure and speedy payments.
India's PhonePe announced that it has enabled UPI payment acceptance in collaboration with online payment platform Lanka Pay across Lanka QR merchant points. This alliance is facilitated through Lanka Pay's partnership with NPCI International Payments Limited.
India and Sri Lanka are bound by historical, civilizational, linguistic, cultural bonds that connects in many ways our economy, our people, and also our aspirations. We have embarked on an ambitious roadmap of strengthening connectivity in all its aspects with a view towards sharing growth and prosperity. We are becoming increasingly more connected through enhanced air connectivity and revitalization of ferry connectivity. India and Sri Lanka are also working together to foster connectivity in the energy sector through the interconnection of their power grids and a multi-product pipeline. The land connectivity corridor is another important initiative that will bring our people and our economies closer in a mutually beneficial manner. With the launch of the UPI in Sri Lanka, we have reached a new milestone in the India-Sri Lanka bilateral relationship. Our people are now connected in the digital domain. This is a big step for people-to-people connectivity between our two countries. It is also a stellar example of India-Sri Lanka partnership in new and emerging domains of technology, keeping pace with the aspirations and expectations of our people.
Sri Lanka's central bank chief stressed on the importance of digital domain collaboration.
We see that the attraction of QR payments lies in their ease of use, making them particularly appealing of everyday purchases, be it at retail outlets, dining establishments, or transportation expenses, and also, like already mentioned, the tourism business. We see these collaborations as landmarks in our journey to accomplish those internationally accepted policies. Then adoption of these in Sri Lanka is also very important. As you are in the industry of retail payments and now as facilitators of cross-border payments, we are well aware of the challenges of cross-border payments. We know there are a lot of scams, the security issues. As a central bank, we encourage these initiatives and stand ready to facilitate and provide regulatory guidance as a regulator for similar implementations. It is through such innovative partnerships and endeavors that we can overcome the long-standing challenges that we discussed already associated with cross-border payments. In conclusion, the advancements we have witnessed in our payment systems underscore our commitment to fostering a modern, efficient, and inclusive financial ecosystem.
When a visitor from India uses PhonePe to make UPI payments in Sri Lanka, the amount will be debited in Indian rupees and the currency exchange rate will be shown to him. Meanwhile, the merchant will get the settlement in Lankan rupees.
The problem is 76% of the cash is with public in cash boxes, walls, under the mattress. So we have a tremendous opportunity to eat into this cash economy. And if working together with fintechs, the banks, financial sector, merchants, we need to drive this cash economy into digital. And as you can see, if we can drive this 900 billion cash with general public as per the central bank's payments bulletin, we have a huge opportunity to go. And that is where the partnerships with PhonePe is coming in importance. Because when you look at the SME segment in the country, which contributes to roughly 52% of our GDP, majority are still in cash. And unless we work together to drive them into digital, we will never succeed in financial inclusivity.
India's UPI services were rolled out in Sri Lanka and Mauritius on the 12th of February during a virtual ceremony which was attended by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and leaders of the two island nations, President Ranil Wickremesinghe and Prime Minister Pravin Jagannath of Mauritius.
Several special programs are being held in line with the Kumbhabhishekam festival of the Sita Amman Kovil in Sita Elia, Nur Elia, which is said to be linked to the Ramayana. Various groups from India are arriving in Sri Lanka to participate in the Kumbhabhishekam festival. A group of special representatives brought water from the Sarju River, also known as Sarayu, in Ayodhya, India, which is considered the birthplace of Lord Rama, yesterday for the Kumbhabhishekam. This bought-and clothing brought from India will be taken to Sita Elia from Mayurupati Sri Bhadrakali Amman temple in Vallavatta tomorrow morning in a procession. It is believed that this temple is located in the Ashoka forest where Princess Sita was kept after she was brought to Sri Lanka.
A book was launched in Colombo that delves into the impact of the newly launched Ramayana Trail project, a joint initiative between Sri Lanka and India. The book, authored by parliamentarian Vimal Veeravansa, sheds light on this endeavour that has had an impact on Sri Lanka.
A book titled Rama, Ravana Saha Vibhishana Nutana Katava, or the modern day story of Rama, Ravana and Vibhushana, was launched in Colombo.
Recently,
Swami Govind Devgiri Maharaj, the treasurer of the Sri Ram Janmabhoomi Tirth Kshetra Trust in Ayodhya, visited Sri Lanka. He visited the country with $5 billion for the development of 9 sites that had been identified by them. At the onset, $5 million was allocated for the project centered on these 9 sites. Swami Govind Devgiri Maharaj, presenting these sites, says that India and Sri Lanka are not 2 lands. A new Bharat concept that is far beyond the Mahabharat project is in the making. This continuous Bharat concept means it is unbroken and it will include Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan and Bhutan. We cannot assume that we will be left out of it. India aims to become the regional power and its ruler. They have had this aim for a very long time. India and the United States of America form an alliance as their common enemy is China. There is an attempt to bring about an Asian NATO. For this to work, they need Sri Lanka because of its geographic position. That is why all this is happening. If we fail to defeat it, even after understanding it, there is nothing to prevent Sri Lanka from becoming a defeated nation. The worst thing that can happen to a person is losing freedom. The Vibhishana chapter that we are in right now strikes a blow on our culture that has historically supported our existence. Instead of introducing legislation to prevent that from happening, the state administration is operating in a manner that approves it. On the other hand, 4 strategic measures have been proposed to uplift the country's economy that mutually links India and Sri Lanka. A road will be constructed to Mannar for physical connectivity. A pipeline is also to be set up between India and Sri Lanka for energy connectivity. There is also a program to split the CEB into 12 entities and make it dysfunctional. Indian companies will give the power to take control. The next move is to make the Indian rupee a currency used in Sri Lanka. The next program in connectivity is to link the customs of both nations. After all this is done with India, how will Sri Lanka become an independent nation? The ETCA agreement is yet to be signed. It is reported that a secretary has been given the task to fast-track the drafting of the agreement to cater India's needs. In addition, 21 sites linked to the Rama Sita Trail are being revised. Indians will then come here to set up food shots. Then Indian travellers will start coming here to visit Rama Sita, sites that are not available over there. They will use their currency to have a meal at a shop owned by an Indian. They will use an Indian bus to go back as well. What we see is an attempt to make the country the 29th state of India.
What's the next election?
Mahinda Rajapaksa, leader of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, has expressed his disagreement with the president's assertion that statements related to a general election are strategically aimed at benefiting from the stock market. He made this remark during a press conference at the Podujana Peramuna party office today.
ඕඩ මේකට අපි සූදානම්. මහමැතිවරණයක් දෙනවා නම් මහමැතිවරණයට සූදානම්, ජනාධිපතිවරණය තියෙනවා නම් ඒකට සූදානම්. ඒකින්ද අපිට ඒක ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ.
දැන් අය කියන පොදුජන පෙරමුණ ඉල්ලන්නේ මහමැතිවරණයක් කියලා.
නැහැ අපිට මහමැතිවරණය දුන්නොත් මහමැතිවරණය ජනාධිපතිවරණය දුන්නොත් දෙකටම අපි සූදානම්. සමහරු කැමති මහමැතිවරණයකට, සමහරු කැමති ජනාධිපතිවරණයට. අපි ඔක්කොම සූදානම්.
දැන් මේ ජනාධිපතිතුමා ප්‍රකාශ කළා දුන්නා මහමැතිවරණය ඉල්ලන්නේ මේ කොටස් වලින් පොළ වාසි ගන්න කියලා.
අපි සූදානේ. ඒක පිළිගන්නේ නැහැ.
ඔබතුමා ජාතික සම්පත් විකිණීම ගැන තරයේ ලියුමක්
ඔය ඉතින් ඒක එහෙම තමයි අපි මම හිතන්නේ මම විතරක් නෙවෙයි අපි පාක්ෂික වැඩි දෙනා 99ක් ඉන්නේ මතේ.
ඒ කියන්නේ මේ ආණ්ඩුව ගෙන යන වැඩපිළිවෙල
අනුමත කරන්නේ නැහැ.
දැන් චෝදනා කරනවා ඔබතුමාලා ආණ්ඩුවෙම ඉන්නවා එහෙම ඉන්න ගමන් මෙහෙම කියන්නේ කියලා අහනවා. ඒක මොකද කියන්නේ?
නෑ ඒක අයිතිය තියෙනවනේ අපිට ස්වාධීනත්වය. අපේ ස්වාධීනත්වය පාව දීලා නැහැ ආණ්ඩුවට. ආණ්ඩුවේ හිටියට අපේ ස්වාධීනත්වය පාව දීලා නැහැ. අපේ මතය ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න අපි උණු දෙලාක සූදානම්. මේ ලේකම්තුමා මේ ඉන්නේ මාලික.
ඒක ඔබතුමාලා අතට දේවල් කරලා ආණ්ඩුව ඉවත් වෙන්න උනත් සූදානම්ද?
ඕනම එකකට අපි සූදානම්. රට වෙනුවෙන්.
What's the next election?
MP Dala Salah Perumal says the economic transformation bill was passed in the cabinet, which also represents the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, before 72 hours passed since former President Mahinda Rajapaksha's letter regarding the sale of state resources was directed to the President.
Mahajana Varamak me aanduwata me palakayanta නැති නිසා
Mahinda Rajapaksa made a request to immediately suspend the sale for 4 months because this government and the rulers do not have the people's mandate. It is tragic that 72 hours later the request was made. The head of state and the cabinet, comprising of parliamentarians elected with the blessing of the former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, decided that the economic transformation bill should be passed and enacted into law. The SLPP should be ashamed. The SLPP calls Mahinda Rajapaksa the ideal leader. How helpless have they made their ideal leader? The government has made a statement within 72 hours that this letter did not matter in the least. What is the journey you plan to embark with a government that is humiliating your party's ideal leader? At a time that their ideal leader has made such a statement, if the SLPP MPs cannot reach a decision, they are telling the public and the media that it is staged.
තීන්දුවට අවතීර්ණ වෙන්න බැරි නම් ඒ කියන්නේ මාධ්‍ය රටට කියන්න මේක මුළු මනින්ම රංගනයක්.
What's the next election?
These are the views expressed by the Federation of National Organizations.
Leader of the Podujana Peramuna, Mahinda Rajapaksa, had made a statement claiming that they are not supporting the government's program in selling national assets. In the midst of everything that is happening, the people that helped President Ranil Wickremesinghe come into power are turning in a blind eye on this. When there are measures that can be taken to stop this, they have not even considered it. As much as President Ranil Wickremesinghe is implementing these, the foundation to this is laid by the leaders of the Podujana Peramuna.
දිරිමත් කරන අවශ්‍ය කරන පසු පදනම සපයන්නේ පොදු පෙරමුණේ නායකයෝ.
What's the next election?
Parliamentarian Udaya Gammampila says the requests of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna will not be fulfilled.
I always told that the presidential election will not be held before the general election. If the parliamentary election is held before the presidential election, no party will achieve a simple majority in parliament. This will result in an unstable parliament, a parliament where any individual will not be able to pass any bill. According to our constitution, even the president does not have the power to dissolve the parliament until 2.5 years are passed. In the midst of this economic crisis, the future president will have to work in a parliament where any decision cannot be made, nor a bill can be passed. Therefore, if President Ranil Wickremesinghe decides to hold a parliamentary election before a presidential election, he will be accused of the downfall of this country even after he retires. The truth is that the true leader of the SLPP is not Basil Rajapaksa. A majority of the SLPP is with the president. Therefore, the president is not motivated to do what Basil Rajapaksa says.
What's the next election?
Former Minister Ravi Karunanayake says that Ranil Wickremesinghe is the independent national presidential candidate.
It is not possible to take the country forward with an elbow now. Only a person with experience and international recognition who has accepted the challenge of this country can do that. That is President Ranil Wickremesinghe. There is no point in telling various things now without accepting the challenge when you had the opportunity. We believe that we have the support of all parties.
රට බංකොලොත් වෙලා තියෙන රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ. ඒතර බංකොලොත් බං එළියට අරන් තියෙන රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ. එහෙනම් ඉතින් වෙනන් දෙයක් අහන්න ඕනේ නැහැ නේ රනිල් තමයි බඩුව.
The Colombo District Court dismissed the petition filed by Acting General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party Duminda Dissanayake seeking an order to prevent any obstruction from engaging in party activities. Duminda Dissanayake filed the application with court seeking an order to prevent any obstruction being made towards him and the acting chairman of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Minister Nimal Siripala de Silva, from engaging in party activities.
The address of the acting chairman of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Nimal Siripala de Silva, and Mahinda Amaravira was the address of the head office of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party located down TB Jaya Mavatha in Colombo. On that basis, President's Counsel Ramesh de Silva, appearing for Minister Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, had raised a preliminary objection on the maintainability of this action due to the lack of jurisdiction of court. The district judge upheld the objection that was raised. Delivering the order, Colombo Chief District Judge Sandun Vithana noted that the petitioner can file an amended application with regard to the request that was made. Thereby, Duminda Disanayaka filed an amended petition at the Colombo District Court this evening. This petition was called up before Colombo Additional District Judge Chamari Veerasurya. President's Counsel Ramesh de Silva, counsel for Minister Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, informed court that the respondents have not been notified of the amended petition that has been filed. He therefore requested court not to allow for the petition to be taken up for hearing today. President's counsel Chandaka Jayasundara informed court that his client had filed the amended petition based on an order issued by the District Judge of Colombo in the morning, indicating that the petitioners had the right to file an amended plaint. An additional district judge refixed the matter to be taken up on the 20th of May 2024. Meanwhile, a petition filed by Lasantha Lagiyavanna, the treasurer of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, will also be taken up for consideration on the 20th of May 2024. The Samagi Janabalavega has objected to the decision reached by the government to annul the nominations that have been called for the local government elections. Samagi Janabalavega representatives expressed their opinion on this matter to the Election Commission today.
General Secretary of the SJB Ranjit Madhuma Bandara and MP GL Piris engaged in discussions at the Election Commission.
The President intends to issue an order to annul all nomination lists called for the local government elections. 1 billion rupees has already been spent for this. The nomination lists for this have been prepared. The objective behind this is very narrow. The Election Commission has clearly said that they cannot hold a fair election if these candidates are held responsible for the distribution of government resources, rice and land. They intend to cancel these nominations to get rid of this obstacle. We are completely against this.
The
President does not have the power to cancel local government elections again. The authority lies with Parliament. We see that the President is acting in a dictatorial manner. The President cannot decide on the dates to conduct the presidential election either. Regardless of what is said, the President cannot postpone the election.
US Ambassador to Sri Lanka Julie Chung met with several members of Parliament during her visit to Jaffna.
S. Sridharan, Dharmalingam Siddharthan and Charles Nirmalanathan joined the meeting with US Ambassador to Sri Lanka Julie Chung in Jaffna yesterday. Posting on X, formerly known as Twitter, Ambassador Julie Chung said they discussed the continued challenges faced by communities in the north. The US ambassador added that they also discussed their calls for accountability and the proposals for ensuring the voices of minority groups are heard to foster an inclusive Sri Lanka.
Valuable Finance was awarded the Best Finance Company for the third consecutive year.
The IMF commended Sri Lanka's economic progress and outlined critical steps for debt deal during a briefing in Washington, D.C. today.
The International Monetary Fund said on Thursday that Sri Lanka's overall program performance has been strong. Julie Kozak, Director of Communications at the International Monetary Fund, speaking to reporters in Washington, D.C., noted that Sri Lanka's macroeconomic policies are beginning to yield positive results. She said that commendable outcomes include a rapid decline in inflation, robust reserve accumulation, and initial signs of economic growth, all while maintaining stability in the financial system. Looking ahead, Kozak outlined the next steps for Sri Lanka's debt restructuring efforts, noting that the primary focus now is to conclude negotiations with external private creditors and to implement the agreements in principle with Sri Lanka's official creditors. She noted the challenges in reaching a consensus with external bondholders, stating that the initial debt restructuring negotiations with external bondholders ended in mid-April without an agreement. However, she said the discussions are ongoing with the aim of reaching an agreement in principle.
The trade union action launched by Gram and Ladari officers where they apply for sick leave continued today. Gram and Ladari officers will continue this trade union action until next Friday.
Trade union action was launched by the Gram and Ladari unions over demands including preparing a service constitution and also implementation of the proposals approved by the Allowances Committee. The situation today was such that further action could not be taken after a person died of natural causes in a house falling under the purview of the 672 West Paratta Panadura.
රාමසේගේ නම් කියලා කිව්ව තාම නෑ. ඒ වැඩවලදී හරි යන්නේ නැති. මනින් මල් සලාර ගෙනියන්න සකස් කරගන්න ලැබුණොත් ඇති.
රජනිලධාරීන් 5 දෙනෙක් කොට්ටාසයකට ඉන්නවා. වැඩ පවරන්න නැතුව මේ වගේ වැඩ කිරීමෙන් අපහසුතාවයටපත් වෙන්නේ මේ වගේ අහිංසක දුප්පත් මිනිස්සු.
The general public are facing growing issues due to the trade union action launched by Gram and Ladari officers.
මම මගේ ඩෙන්ටිටි නැති වෙලා ඒකට ලියුමක් ගන්න ඕන මහත්තයාගෙන්.
Gram and Ladari officers request the government to provide swift solutions to their issues without inconveniencing the general public.
We made requests from every government for the past 10 years. There has been no response. When working as Gram and Ladari officers, we have to spend about 30% of our salary just to work. Against such a backdrop, preparing the future of our children and sustaining the public service and the lives of the Gram and Ladari officers has crashed.
The strike launched by 72 trade unions in the health sector at the provincial level demanding economic justice was implemented in the southern province today. The strike was launched against the failure to issue the circular regarding the increase of allowances in line with uniform allowance and the failure to include 15 groups in the health sector in the circular to increase the special allowance. Patients in many hospitals in the southern province were severely burdened due to the strike action launched from 8 a.m. to 12 noon today.
Today marks 15 days since non-academic staff at state universities launched a strike, highlighting several demands, including a solution to salary anomalies. More than 15,000 non-academic employees commenced a strike, citing multiple demands, including the provision of monthly bonuses that have been agreed on and reversing a decision made in 2016 to cut salaries by 15%. Activities at many state universities were disrupted as a result of the strike.
We emphasize that this issue requires intervention. If not, we will have to continue our trade union action.
University executive officers engaged in trade union action for a 13th consecutive day.
There is no need to redirect this matter to the Treasury. We repeatedly ask you to give a political solution to this matter.
Meanwhile, the National Union of Teachers and Principals warned today that if solutions are not provided to teachers' salary anomalies, they will launch massive protests in the future. They held a press conference today at the Guru Madura with the participation of all the teachers' associations of the Alliance.
Teacher advisors and even teachers of Pirivens are in a salary crisis by now. We requested the government multiple times to pay us the next part of our salaries. We saw the Minister of Education state in Parliament recently that he will take steps to pay the amounts to us. Certain ministers in the committees were quite rude to us as well. However, the salary recommendation was approved. Now we can request it to be paid to us. Ranil Wickremesinghe seems to be postponing it. We want it now. We have no other means of living. If our trade union action affects the school education system in any way, the government must be held accountable for it. We have given them a grace period. Instead of limiting the salary recommendations to discussions, give it to us immediately. If not, we will launch trade union action on the 26th of June. On the 26th of June, the teachers will take to the streets if no solution is provided. Teachers, principals, Piriven teachers and teacher advisors will all unite and report sick. We will all assemble in Colombo. Therefore, we inform Ranil Wickremesinghe's government that we will not let the teachers and principals of this country be fooled by anyone.
During the ongoing Mullibaikal Remembrance Week, commemorative events including the distribution of Mullibaikal kanji or porridge have been conducted across various locations in the northern region, marking the 5th day of these activities. What is this commemoration about?
The Mullivai Remembrance Week takes place to honour those who lost their lives in the final stages of the Sri Lankan Civil War. The week culminates on the 18th of May, the date marking the end of the war in 2009. During this week, various events and ceremonies are held to honour the memory of those who lost their lives during the conflict, especially civilians caught in the crossfire. These events often include religious services, memorial gatherings, candlelight vigils, and the distribution of symbolic food items like Mullivai Kanji or porridge. This porridge is significant as it depicts the only meal civilians had during the final week of the war while trapped in Mullivai. This meal is a mix of rice and water. Some reports suggest that in the absence of clean water, seawater was used to prepare this meal. This morning, a ceremony commemorating Mullivai featuring the distribution of porridge took place at the Jaffna bus station. Additionally, at the University of Jaffna, Kilinochchi campus students participated in the distribution of porridge as part of the Mullivai remembrance activities.
News First with the people.
Up next is the News First Finance Report.
The News First Finance Report.
MMAG Holdings BHD's wholly owned subsidiary MMAG Aviation Consortium SDN BHD has entered into a partnership with Supreme Global Holdings Private Limited to collaborate on the aviation sector in Sri Lanka. In a filing with Bursa Malaysia, MMAG said the collaboration will see its aviation arm, a specialist in the air cargo segment, supporting Supreme Global in the acquisition of Sri Lankan Airlines. It said that the board believes that the agreement has potential and would allow MMAG Group to enhance its global footprint in aviation and logistics industry through the collaboration with Supreme Global in Sri Lanka, strengthening both companies' positions and contributing to the advancement of Sri Lanka's air cargo landscape should the acquisition plan materialize. Under the terms of the agreement, MAC will provide freighter aircraft and operational support to establish a cargo feeder network for Sri Lankan Airlines following its acquisition by Supreme Global and its partner. In April, Sri Lanka's state-owned enterprise restructuring unit announced that 6 requests for qualifications were received for the acquisition of shares of Sri Lankan Airlines. These RFQs were received from the following parties: Air Asia Consulting SDN BHD, Darshan Elite Investment Holding Private Limited, Fitz Aviation Private Limited, Sherisha Technologies Private Limited, Treasure Republic Guardians Limited, Haley's PLC. Fonterra Cooperative Group Limited announced a step change in its strategic direction as it commits to deepening its position as a world-leading provider of high-value and innovative dairy ingredients. As a part of this, the Coop has announced it is exploring full or partial divestment options for some or all of its global consumer businesses as well as its integrated businesses, Fonterra Oceania and Fonterra Sri Lanka. Chairman Peter McBride says this is a significant move for the Coop, which will set it up to grow long-term value for farmer shareholders and unit holders. Fonterra Oceania is a fully integrated business recently created through merging Fonterra brands, New Zealand and Fonterra Australia. It comprises consumer, food service and ingredient businesses. Fonterra Sri Lanka comprises of consumer and food service businesses. As a next step, Fonterra will appoint advisors to assist with assessing divestment options.
The News First Finance Report.
The Pakistan High Commission in Colombo, in collaboration with the Higher Education Commission of Pakistan, held seminars and roadshows in different parts of Sri Lanka in connection with Education Expo 2024.
Seminars and roadshows were organized by the Higher Education Commission of Pakistan with participation of representatives of reputed universities from Pakistan to create awareness about the Allama Iqbal scholarships that Pakistan has been offering to Sri Lankan students for the past many years. Under the Allama Iqbal Scholarships Program, the government of Pakistan offers fully and partially funded scholarships to Sri Lankan students at graduate, postgraduate and doctorate level in leading universities of Pakistan. Addressing the event, the High Commissioner of Pakistan, retired Major General Fahimul Aziz Etshai, gave an overview of the bilateral relations between Pakistan and Sri Lanka, including close cooperation in the field of education.
For the last many years, the Government of Pakistan through the Higher Education Commission has been offering scholarships to Sri Lankan students to pursue their higher education in our country in diversified disciplines. Collaboration in education is a significant component of our bilateral relations, as through initiatives like these, strong bonds are established between people of the two countries. Pakistan's prestigious education institutions, in collaboration with Higher Education Commission, have been offering Sri Lanka students these scholarships, which are funded by the Government of Pakistan.
The Education Expo 2024 concluded with a mega event at the BMICH on the 15th of May.
2 luxury cruise ships docked at the Hambantota International Port.
MV Silver Cloud, owned by Silver Sea Cruises, the luxury brand of the Royal Caribbean Group, arrived from Cochin carrying 232 passengers, while TUI's Mindshift 5, arriving from Lanka, carried 2,434 passengers. A group of passengers from Mindshift 5 did their customary e-bike tour to take in the sights of Hambantota. The e-bikes were organized in line with Hambantota International Port's Green Port Drive.
The weekly silent protest at the Liberty Circle took place today.
Civil activists gathered at the Liberty Circle in Colombo to express their dismay over the lack of attention to pressing issues in the country.
Tomorrow, we are remembering 15 years since the war. Today, what do we have? A corrupt and a country that is going down the drain. That's all what we have achieved. And our leaders, on top of that, are giving away parts of the country, the great assets, to India, giving away to China, giving away to Japan, giving away to this country, that country. I don't know, by the time we come to the presidential election, we would have given everything away. And I don't even know why we need a president, because we wouldn't have anything to run.
Activists held placards to express their dismay to the current state of affairs.
Up next is The World Today.
Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico is fighting for his life in hospital after being shot in a small town near northeast of Bratislava. Defence Minister Robert Kalinak said Fico had been in surgery for over 3 hours and that the situation was bad. Slovak politicians, including the president, have called the shooting an attack on democracy. The alleged assailant was detained at the scene but has not yet been formally identified by the authorities. The attack happened in Handlova as Fico greeted people in front of a cultural community centre where a government meeting had been held. Footage showed a man raising a gun and firing 5 times at the Prime Minister before being subdued by bodyguards, while other members of Fico's security detail took the Prime Minister into his car. He was airlifted by helicopter to a nearby hospital before being flown to another hospital. In March this year, thousands of Slovaks rallied in the capital to condemn a plan by the new government of populist Prime Minister Robert Fico to overhaul the country's public broadcasting during a wave of anti-government protests. France ordered troops to guard ports and the international airport in its Pacific territory of New Caledonia as a state of emergency started on the 16th of May after 2 nights of riots left 4 dead and hundreds wounded. Turmoil erupted after France's National Assembly backed disputed changes to voting rolls that indigenous Kanak leaders say will dilute their vote. President Emmanuel Macron offered to hold talks with New Caledonian lawmakers while also approving the use of security forces and a nighttime curfew to halt the worst violence seen in 4 decades. Shops have been looted and public buildings torched during nighttime violence. 4 people, including a gendarme, have been killed. Hundreds of people have been injured. Russian President Vladimir Putin arrived in Beijing, where he met with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping. This is Putin's first international visit since the start of his unprecedented 5th presidential term, following an election where he ran virtually unopposed. The meeting, the third in just over a year, comes as Russia's invasion of Ukraine has raged on for more than 2 years. Russia has faced hundreds of sanctions from the US and its Western allies that aim to cripple Moscow's war machine and has looked to China as a lifeline amid the sanctions. Vladimir Putin thanked Chinese leader Xi Jinping for China's effort to resolve the Ukraine conflict at their Beijing summit, where the Chinese leader said, quote, "China hopes Europe will return to peace and stability soon and will continue to play a constructive role towards this," unquote.
Up next is the road to the World Cup.
The ICC T20 World Cup. This moment is all that I've been dreaming of.
Well, focus. England and the West Indies share the record for the highest number of T20 World Cup championships. Both teams have secured the title twice. England first claimed victory in 2010 and then again in 2022. Meanwhile, the West Indies were crowned champions for the first time in 2012 at the R. Premadasa Stadium in Colombo, and they repeated their success in 2016. Among other cricketing nations, India, Australia, Sri Lanka and Pakistan have also been crowned T20 world champions at least once. However, New Zealand, South Africa, Bangladesh, Ireland, Afghanistan and Zimbabwe, despite being ICC full members, are still awaiting their first T20 World Cup triumph.
This moment is all that I've been dreaming. Remember the name. The ICC T20 World Cup.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight.
Thank you for watching.
Good
night.
night.